We had Amelia speaking yesterday. She did a really, really good job. And of course, those of you who go to places like Nabiac on the mid-north coast will understand that the only light on in town is the NRMA charging station. So without further ado, please welcome Amelia from the NRMA.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Am I good to go with my presentation up here? You need me to press anything? You need me to press something? Hold on.
Just start presentation down the bottom. So, yep. And then you click on.
That's coming up for you guys, okay?
Yep.
Beauty. I've had some really good conversations today with our members and non-members alike who are using the chargers, and that's been really great to hear. Also taking on the feedback around when issues are happening and working hard to solve some of them. So over the next few months, just keep in touch with us because we will have improvements to the experience, so you're not rocking up somewhere and if someone's hit emergency stop and all of a sudden you're stranded and you need us to tow you somewhere. So what I'm going to talk about today briefly is really what we've done so far. Some of you are well and truly across our infrastructure, but some of you are less so. But also the kind of two other areas where we're really building out our offering and content for people wanting to make this change. I'm also going to share a little bit of customer research that we did about 2 months ago with people that we call fast followers. So some of you may be fast followers, some of you may be early adopters, but we essentially see this group as they're behind the gate ready to buy the EV. That's what they really want to do, but there's a few barriers in the way for them. And the information gaps that they have got, that's where we're spending a lot of time at the moment building out information so we can solve some of those problems. And then finally, I'm just going to give you a bit of an update on a driver training product that we'll have in market in January, which again might not be suited to this room, but just trying to give you some confidence that we're looking more broadly than just the infrastructure so that we can support the community in other ways. So what have we done so far? A number of you have, as I said, mentioned your experiences with our fast chargers, which is really, really heartwarming to hear. And that's really about confidence to get more places. So we're out for 24. Hay launches on Tuesday. Mildura comes a couple of weeks later. And then Port Mac will be in November. And our commitment is 40 fast chargers by June 30. So they're all 50 kilowatts. We're not doing anything slower and we're also not doing anything faster at the moment. And our membership base doesn't pay to use them, and there's no intention to change that anytime in the near future. The second area that we're looking at is about being better informed, whether you're buying all the way through to selling. I'm not sure if there is anyone who's bought a second-hand EV or looked at that, but there's quite a lot of unknowns in that grey market and a need to really develop out some information, which is something people have been coming to us for decades and decades and decades when it comes to petrol vehicles, and we are receiving the calls today, so we're looking at building out some knowledge there. We're also looking at what kind of cars suit people, range, how range works, how you can sort of, get the most out of your car, which of course we do again in a fuel situation, but we just call that fuel economy. So it's really taking the same concepts and just lifting them and shifting them over into the EV audience. We're going to keep going with our advocacy. We produce a number of papers. We do lobby government. We have lots of conversations with government. We have a very vocal leadership team, and our group CEO is very much part of that. So that's not going to slow down. We're going to continue doing that for you all and trying to make it easier and better. And then the third area of our business where we're developing stuff out is around support once you're already on the road. So that's where I've had some awesome discussions this weekend. We've got fast charging, that's great, but those chargers aren't connected at the moment, which means you rely on using PlugShare or a website and just turning up and hoping that no one's using it and hoping that it's working. So one of the first things that we've got happening just after the new year basically is connecting those chargers up, so you'll not only be able to see if they're in use or broken, but we're also looking at other things such as, if people are sitting on them for too long, how do we have a mechanism in place to push them along? And possibly even not necessarily a booking function like picking a time of day, but you know when you're 5 minutes away from somewhere and you just don't want someone to sneak in? We're sort of looking at whether or not we can have a reserve function available so that if you're within 5 or 10 minutes of a charger, you can just know with confidence it'll still be free when you rock up to use it. We still have a motoring advice team that service thousands and thousands of calls a year. And roadside, which I know a number of the manufacturers are providing with the EVs, but it might be that there are services they just can't get to. So we're not going to stop doing that for people. That's part of our core commitment as an organisation. And then driver training as well is where we're developing out something to support businesses. I'm not sure if there's anyone here with a fleet or who's involved in an organisation that's got a fleet. But we're hearing a lot of interest in people wanting to transition that fleet and needing some information around how do I stack up a business case to make that sellable, to the big boss. And then once I do that, how do I get my people feeling safe in that car and confident using that car as much as I am, personally about it. So we're doing those things as well. So this is from some research we just did in July. We spoke with a whole bunch of people around the country as well as in metro and country areas, and they basically said this is where they've got knowledge gaps. So on the cost side of things, it was all around, are there any costs that I don't know about? When it comes to a car today, I know what I know because I've got years and years and years of usage experience, and suddenly here's a vehicle I don't know much about, and so I don't know if there are hidden costs associated. I don't know what the battery replacement costs are going to be. I don't know what charging costs are going to be at the moment. A lot of people say they know it's free to use a lot of networks, but they don't expect that to happen forever, so they're just wondering, well, what is that going to mean long term? Is suddenly I'm going to get charged a lot of money to use them. Car servicing comes up as well, so even though people know it will be cheaper to run and they won't need to have it serviced as often, when you ask them, well, then what will it cost when you eventually do need that service? There's a lot of head scratching that goes on. So there's a need to, I suppose, build some confidence out there in the market that we can sort of provide reassurance that it's not going to be you buy into this market and suddenly you're going to get stitched up more than a mechanic might try already. And that people sort of feel that they can go in knowing what that total cost of ownership is going to be. And then on the other side, it's kind of the convenience side of things. There were lots of questions around home charging and charging time and range anxiety. That stuff was still coming through. So we're going to work on creating or curating, depending on whether or not it's already out there and we can just buy it from someone, some content that solves some of these information gaps for people. Love to hear if any of this was an issue for you before you bought an EV or currently, sort of before you're thinking about buying one. But I've had so many conversations this weekend where I think you're a group of people who you're probably very self-driven around getting this information already. And so it's about trying to make it easier then for the masses, because not everyone's probably knows as much as you. And the last thing I was just going to give you an update on today is our driver training. So we're going to have something in market in early 2020. And something that we've learnt along the way with EVs is that assume nothing, assume when it comes to business models, supply chains, the way that we run our business today, you can't assume because of how it worked with petrol cars, it's going to be exactly the same with EVs. And that goes for basically people understanding what's safe and not safe driving. So this is going to look at everything from managing range. As I said, we're going to do some content around how do you get the most out of your range and what are the things that impact it. Now, again, if you're already in one of these cars, you know this stuff. You're probably part of forums and you've built up knowledge, but there's a lot of people out there who they hear it's an issue and they want to know, well, how do I look after it? Then from a driver behaviour point of view, we're going to be looking at things like, well, I've got an example, which is that when you're dealing with EVs and regenerative braking, being tailgated suddenly introduces some new safety problems because people aren't watching my brake lights anymore. And so there are issues like that where you need to sort of think about not your own driving, but everything going on around you. You've got pedestrians that can't hear you because your car's very, very quiet. And you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you hit them, obviously. So we've got some different things to look at all of a sudden from a driver behaviour, not just yourself, but everything going on around you. And then planning your journey will also be part of that. A lot of people are asking us for help with that one. And then, of course, our core, which is around road safety. And EVs, they're really safe cars, but they do have some unique features about them that I think, again, it might not necessarily be yourself in it, but it'll be everyone around you that you need to pay more close attention to. So that's just a quick update on kind of the next product that rolls off from us that's EV specific. As I said, we're working pretty hard around making the network work better for you so that it's connected and you can use it a bit more intuitively, and that roadside and everything else is there to support you as well. So if you do have an issue, we still will rescue you. And that's it for my preso. I probably would say the question that's come up a little bit to me throughout the last couple of days has been around reciprocal agreements with other networks from other clubs. So I'll answer that one in case someone's got it, which is that I've met the clubs in the last couple of weeks. So this is RACQ, RACV, etc. And we have an in-principle commitment to provide reciprocal arrangements for each other's members. So if you're a New South Wales member, you're in good hands anyway, because we've got a pretty fantastic network. But if you are based somewhere else, you'll still be able to access that under your current membership, wherever you may hold that. That's it. I don't know if there's any other questions, but thank you very much for your attention. And I know we're getting to the end of the day on day 2, so appreciate you showing up and watching me. Thanks.
Don't go anywhere yet, Amelia. I'm sure there'll be questions.
Well, now you have to make one up.
I have to make one up?
Well, if no one's got one.
How come you're not charging people who are members?
Who are members or not?
Yeah. Why is anything free in life? The only thing I ever found that was free, it gives me a nasty rash. So how come everything's free for members?
So I guess our philosophy at the moment is that we're behind this transition in this change. And as a member, if you're part of that, if you're really at the forefront with us, then you already pay us a membership fee and that's sufficient. I know scale will come. I realise that won't be sustainable forever and ever and ever. But for now, it's really nice to be able to provide that value add. And I've had a lot of members coming up to me who have been members for a long time, and they no longer use roadside, but they use the chargers, and they sort of feel, is that yeah. I'm one of them? Is that what that means, or is it a question? Yeah. Oh, yeah, so nice. You're a couple of them. That's good. Yeah, that's
I've got
good.
4 more now, Amelia. I was only giving a filler. Hold on.
My question is kind of related to John's, and that is, I know that some of your chargers are already becoming actually busy.
Yeah.
When they get busy, obviously the nice thing to do, if you can afford it, is to put one alongside it, or 2 or 3, to increase capacity. And of course, that demands additional funds.
Yeah.
So have you got a provisional plan to continue to expand as demand arises, and how busy does a charger have to get before you hit that threshold?
Yeah, so the first part of the question is that no, I guess our focus is put 40 in that connect as many people to as many places as possible. And we're trying to do that to within 150 kilometres each. So if we do that, and we do that in a cost-effective way, then yes, I mean, the natural thing would be to look back at where we perhaps put one charger, like Mittagong is the most relevant site I think I could mention, and see if we can go back and add another. There you go. You can send me a text and let me know what the queue's like. Olympic Park is also, I mean, it's just crazy now since those Teslas rolled off the delivery truck. So the focus is, number one, put 40 in. But if we do that in a manner that doesn't require all of our social dividend, we may go back and add some more to other sites. Yeah.
Mittagong, Nabiac, all the nice places on earth.
Yeah. Hi there.
Hello. I've got 4 other vehicles and my house insured through NRMA.
Yes.
When I got a quote for my Tesla, it was more than double any other companies.
Yeah.
So is NRMA going to start looking at, comparable policy costs?
Yeah.
And plus the fact that with monitoring with Tesla, you can actually get a driving history, so you'll know how the people drive as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So as a number of you know, we share a brand with NRMA Insurance, and so I don't have strict control over their product development, but I have started some conversations with that team to say that it doesn't really help our mission if our biggest brand partner that provides insurance to many of our customers, isn't sort of there with the offer. So I don't have a solution yet for you, I'm afraid, but I'm aware of it. And I'm going to try work with them on landing a better proposition. The other thing is that we're not the first market to have EVs. I don't think I need to say that to this room. And there are several markets that risk assessors and actuaries and whoever else can gather data from. So not being an expert in that space, my hope is that if we can't get enough data here locally, then we may be able to borrow from New Zealand or another market where it's got a similar profile to Australia. So yeah, I'm sorry that's been your experience. I'm aware it's a bit of an issue. I've got a colleague, so obviously a couple of people at work have bought the Teslas, and they also got stitched up with some pretty big quotes. So that was the first time I heard about it, and ever since then I've been seeing some comments about it. So yeah, I'll keep working on it for you. Yeah.
Yes, have you heard of any estimates of time when EVs might be cost competitive with traditional cars?
Price parity? Yeah. I've heard a couple of different timelines. 2023 is the earliest that I hear. 2027 is probably the latest that I hear. It's difficult partly because we don't have any major government incentives at the moment at a national level. Each state does have some, but there is a government EV strategy due, I think it's mid next year, and if anything changes in that particular world, I'm not expecting it at the moment, but if it does, that could also make quite a big difference. But 2023 is when I hear the earliest you and I will be able to see a sort of $30,000-$40,000 EV. Yeah.
And I must say too, the AEVA website has some phenomenal free reading material about that.
I've no doubt.
2 sessions on it this morning, and it was
Have I picked the right dates? Because that's what I sort of am working with. Okay, I'm getting nodded at. That's good. We're all singing from the same song sheet. Yes. Yeah. So that the comment there was that even though you sort of stumped up with this initial high cost to buy the vehicle, the total cost of ownership is actually really on a par for some vehicles already. But if you're someone like myself, I finance cars because I'd rather put the money into the mortgage. And so for me, the difference between a $30,000 or $40,000 loan and a $60,000 or $70,000 loan is probably enough at the moment that I'm not making the jump. But who knows? I mean, I'm working on my husband around the I'm working on the Mini. I'd love the Mini, but yeah, I think that would be fun to drive. So we'll see what happens. But sometime in the next 5 years, you'll see a definite change occur. Yeah.
There was a really good story on cars the other week that Henry Ford made many hundreds of thousands of Model T Fords, and there's none left. Rolls-Royce only made so many, and they're all still functioning. So there is an element of the quality and the value and the price and the ROI. There was a ripper story this morning on ROI.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds
as
good.
well. Yes.
Yeah, a really basic question, or two actually. How long does it take on average to charge at one of your fast chargers, and how long would it take to charge if I plugged my car into my house overnight?
Yeah.
And I know that NRMA has got partnerships with accommodation.
Yep.
And can you see a time when I can rock up to my motel room and get my plug out the window and charge that way?
Yeah, sure. So question one, it is going to depend on how far flat you've run the battery, just like how low your tank of fuel might be. But our rule of thumb is 30 to 40 minutes will get you probably to 80%. And then anecdotally, a lot of customers tell me that they sit on either for half an hour or an hour. So I think that's a good rule of thumb with our network. There are faster chargers out there that will do it a bit quicker for you. So I think it's just going to depend on how quick you want it. But half an hour to 45 minutes is probably a good rule of thumb there. At home, depends on what setup you get, but it's overnight, so you plug it in when you get home. I think from what we hear, the customer behaviour is you get home, you park your vehicle, you plug it in and you charge it overnight, and it'll be ready to go fully juiced in the morning. And then the question around accommodation. So something I'm already looking at now is our holiday park network, which of course is ours, and we also have assets in other places. We get asked a lot by motels and other accommodation areas to support them. I'd love to do it. I think we've just got a team capacity problem at the moment where there's only so much of me and the build team, and we're trying so hard to hit that 40 number by June 30. But I actually think what will happen is my bosses will probably tell me to shift focus at some point and to say, look, yeah, we need to help these other businesses. There's a lot of interest from them, and I've had some good conversations today on the AEVA website. There's content, to not just support the customers, but also to support businesses who want to support those customers rocking up with the EVs. So that would be a good place to maybe have a look at some content already. Because you're focused on areas, aren't you, where you sort of get a local tourism area and then reach out to all of the people in that area and say, look, here's how you can support an EV driver when they come and visit you. So that would be another good place to go and get some content. Yeah.
Great question, great answers. We also look forward to every accommodation outlet. Yep.
Was there one there? Did you have a question?
There was. Well, I'm just trying to keep it on schedule, so it's a quick question, I'm sure, from Mr. Gregory.
I'm suddenly feeling
we'll
very
give him a go.
loved, and that's, yesterday I only got one, so just let me have this moment.
I've been explaining fast charging infrastructure to people doing test drives around today. And I usually tell them in New South Wales, you're pretty well serviced, at least on the eastern half of the state. Once you cross the border to Victoria, it's a bit of a desert if you go off the main highway. Do you know if RACV, RACQ, all the other states are planning similar networks to yours? I know you're all partners with ChargeFox, but as well as that, do you know if there are any plans for a similar density of chargers?
No one's going to do what we're doing from an investment point of view in fast charging. Some of the clubs have a partnership model where they're keen to support it, but they don't necessarily want to put their money behind it and build it themselves and own and operate it. So New South Wales is going to be, you're going to have more here than anywhere else because we are committed to that. But there's also a couple of things we're going to do with our network. Like we're going to get you to Adelaide through that Hay Mildura track. And I think we already get you into Brisbane. Ewingsdale's the last stop. But we are looking at if there are any other gaps, and the clubs are supportive of us putting a couple in their regions if we need to. So it is a bit of a shame. It's not equal across all of the states, but they are supportive of trying to make sure it happens, just not necessarily fund it. Yeah.
So if you do it well in New South Wales...
Hang on, Charles.
Yeah.
If you do it well in New South Wales, the other states, and it could be governments or other organisations,
yeah, that's right,
will look at the map and realise they need to do something.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's part of the plan. We do it, we put it in, we show people it's not that difficult, and we make it look really, really good, and we hear from customers how great it is, and it puts pressure on people to make it happen. So, sorry I can't tell you that it's definitely already going to be scheduled, but I'm sure we'll see the change come. I'm sure of it. Yeah. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the questions. Great questions.
Thanks, Amelia. You sure I can come up with a few more too?
No, that's fine. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that bit of it.
Thank you, Amelia.